Hey guys, Tranzcendent here, and today we're going to do an attempt run on the Ruined Village raid that just came out. This is the harder of two raids, so I'm going to do it a little bit slower and explain how exactly we're going to set up the teams and get through all 12 rooms and eventually kill the boss. The raids reset every day at 8 p.m. and you get keys at 9 p.m. if you're in the Pacific Standard Time. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure when they'll reset, but you can convert those Pacific times and get your own time with that. So the first thing we do is we got to pick 20 monsters to take in there, and you're going to want to take in monsters that synergize really well with each other. You don't just want to pick your highest tier monsters, because if they don't synergize well, they're not really going to get anything done, and they're going to get picked off one by one in the dungeon and just die off. Here we're going to go all the way down and actually start picking up some 4 stars just because of the buffs they give the rest of our team. And when we run out of the level 30 and some +5s, we're just going to go back up, and then we're going to start doing a secondary team. If the main team ever dies out, then these guys will come in and try to basically be a little cleanup crew in there with us. So we've selected a large amount of dark monsters, or normal monsters, sorry, since we are going to be running a normal team primarily, and then we picked up some backup fire monsters. Now I'm just looking through to see which last fire monster or maybe a normal monster we can take in there. It looks like we can just go ahead and take in another fire, so we're just gonna take in this little guy, and that's gonna be our squad. The first few rooms, including the first couple of bosses, can die pretty quickly, so you just want to have a shield leader that's very defensive and can protect the rest of the team. Then you want to fill up your squad with some good attackers and 1 healer. So our spooking is going to be our healer for the first few rooms, and the Zakum here is going to be able to give us some good defense with a shield 2 on the entire team. The Anubis is going to be able to do a lot of AoE damage along with the Glintfang here, and the Magnus is basically only in the team to finish off at the very end. Alrighty, so just in case for anybody who's not familiar, synergy basically means that one monster will help another monster who will help another monster, and so on and so forth. Well, your entire team is basically helping each other and buffing each other, so you can kill the bosses much easier. You basically will not be able to do any of the rooms in here unless you have really good synergies. So the reason we're doing a full normal lineup here is because our Zakum is a normal monster and he gives all of these buffs to his teammates, but any supporting monsters that are down here in this 4 list are also going to have their passives supporting the rest of the team. So our Zakum is giving all normal monsters 40% bonus attack. Anubis is actually giving all normal monsters 90% bonus HP. The Glintfang is giving all normal monsters 30% critical strike, and the Spooking is adding an extra 70% HP. So when all of these things compound, it actually makes your damage and your HP and your defenses much stronger on your team, basically catapulting them into the next tier. This is why we have the A ranks and the S ranks and everything like that. You can actually have a really low tier monster in your team and still have S rank just by having the passives really strong. So with these strong passives, we can go in and we can basically clear up to the last boss with just this team alone. We might need to change a couple of guys out for the second boss right here, just to have him die a little bit faster so we can conserve some HP. I'll get more in on the specifics of the strategies later. Alrighty guys, let's get started. We're gonna go in room number 1. Little mushroom friends here, they got some big lips. Let's see. If you can punch, you can be punched. Damage dog. Thought that was called Punch Puppy. See these mushrooms. Can we handle them? I don't know. Got a pretty fat team here. So you can see I'm just going to immediately shield up. I want to keep shielding. I'm going to use Spooking's ability first because it buffs our team, gives them some damage. And using the 2 abilities from Glintfang and Anubis, we can quickly clear the enemy team, no problem. The first few rooms are just like this. They're really, really easy. This guy looks like a cake. I want to eat him. Looks like an ice cream cake. Alright, we're going to go back in. Same exact setup. We're just going to be fighting 1 extra mushroom, so no big deal there. Pretty easy mode. Let's see, same exact strategy. We're going to want to shield up and wait for Spooking's ability to fully charge, because it not only heals us, but it also gives our team a 30% damage boost. That's the synergy I was talking about earlier. It'll buff everybody, and then you can use the 2 abilities and finish them off. There are a couple of advanced, I don't know if you call them advanced, but a couple little extra strategies I figured out while just playing this game that really help out when you're fighting the big bosses, and I'll go more in-depth on that when we get to Darkhawk himself. Really applies more to him because of his many different abilities and his power-up stages. So, now that we're coming up on the first boss, I will take a little break, explain some boss mechanics, even though this first one's very easy. Knowing some of the boss mechanics is good and helps you pick a good team to go in against the boss. Let's clear this room out first when Ruby Scale lets us through, and we're gonna see what we can pull off here. So same old mushrooms. These guys are growing a little bit of diseases on the top of their heads. They've been in the red light district a little bit too long. We're gonna same exact strategy. We actually let our Magnus take a little bit of damage here. That's not too great. And I couldn't get the heal off before the round ended. That's too bad, but it's not the end of the world. We actually got a little rainbow girl. Oh, awesome. Alright guys, time for a little bit of strategy explanation here. Sorry about the quality changing a little bit, guys. I actually have to record these videos in little 3-minute snippets, and I think the last segment I recorded was at a really low quality, so if it's a little choppy, I apologize. Thankfully, it's only the first few rooms, and I will be fixing that for the rest of the video. So, for this first boss stage here, he's very easy, pretty much not even, warranting an explanation, but I want to explain a little bit of the boss mechanics anyway. The bosses do have, I believe, 2 to 3 abilities each, and the main thing you really want to worry about, because the abilities, they're pretty deadly, but they're not that big of a deal in the first 2 rooms. Only the last boss's abilities are actually lethal. But the bosses do get enraged every 20 seconds, and what that means is they're going to get much stronger every 20 seconds. I don't know exactly by what numerics they get stronger, but it would seem that they get about twice as strong as they previously were every stage they go up, and that happens every 20 seconds. My goal for each boss is to have them die at approximately 59 seconds, because you can handle 2 enrage phases, but when they get to the 1-minute mark, they usually start one-shotting your team members, and if they have any sort of AoE ability, they're literally going to wipe the floor with your team. So, since I have a couple of damage monsters here, like Magnus and Spooking, I'm just going to go in with this team against the Anubis, because I want to get them healed up. Since your team doesn't regen any HP between phases, you're going to want to take in a healer every now and then just to top everybody off, because by the time we get to the last boss, you're going to want everybody at maximum HP. If you don't have them at max HP, it makes them much more vulnerable to getting one-shot, and then losing a team member early in the fight is never a good thing. So, for this boss fight, same exact strategy. We're going to shield up, we're going to buff up with the Spooking and get that heal up, and we're just going to throw all 3 attacks out. And we're going to constantly shield up just to make sure the boss never gets an attack in. I'm actually going to pause real quick here. If you notice right here, that little circle, once that completely fills up, that's the boss's next attack incoming. You always want to have a shield up when that finishes. So the boss is going to attack there, you'll see it's going to charge up, and you see it pauses a little bit. When this little purple orb gets full, he's going to throw an attack. So we're going to want to shield up right before that, and we're going to finish him off before he even gets the attack off. But you want to keep that in mind. The boss's next attack or ability comes when that bar fills up. And you saw it pausing there for a little bit. I'm not going to go too in-depth into that right now. I'm going to wait till the next boss to really explain how that happens. That's another key mechanic to keep in mind when you're fighting these bosses. It really helps out to know exactly how to manipulate the fights. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and since we're in the next phase of the dungeon, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to swap out my Magnus for my Ibzard. He does an AoE stun. It's slightly helpful. It minimizes the damage you take. It does elongate the boss rooms, the rooms a little bit, but it's not by so much that it's really a bother. It just helps you stabilize a little bit better and make sure none of your team's taking any damage before the next boss comes up. If you don't have an AoE stunner, do not worry about this. Just make sure an attack buffer is in there so that you get the attack passive for your team. These guys, if they die quickly enough, you don't really have to worry about the damage your team takes, because they won't be taking too much anyway as long as you've got a good shielder. So that's the stun I was talking about. It just helps me get some energy back and cycle the shields a little bit better. Not too big a deal, but it's the little things that really help in the dungeon in the long run. This dungeon is definitely doable without having an Ibzard on your team, though, or whatever stunner that might be for your team specifically. I'll try to make a little bit better guide for different types of teams. I've actually got a friend of mine who's working on a fire team into this dungeon. They actually got to the last boss today but could not beat him. So we're going to see if we can tweak their team a little bit here and there and be able to beat that last boss. And we'll upload a video doing it with a fire team as well. And I will be making a water team, and then we'll eventually get to a nature team as well, hopefully with the Darkhawk on it. So let's just keep doing these little rooms. Don't have to vary up the team strategies too much. Just throw a shield up whenever the attacks start coming out. Throw a heal up, re-shield, do some stuns and some damages. Not too much strategy. You can just throw out your damage dealing attacks, and eventually you will get the damage through. A little thing to note, in these rooms, some of the mobs do debuff your monsters. This will remove the shield on your teammates. So what you want to do is, if you see that occur, you want to re-shield up immediately. Because when one of your shields go down, these guys hit for about 1k to 3k each. And that can really badly hurt your team. It'll take off maybe 10 to 30% of your HP per hit. You definitely don't want somebody losing that much HP right before you get to the boss, because then the boss is going to be able to, like I said, one-shot you much easier. So if you do hit that little noise, it's like a little sparkling noise, and you see all the shields on your team members drop, just re-shield up immediately, and if you have a stunner, throw a stun up to minimize the damage incoming. It'll help a lot, and it'll make it a much safer run overall. So, same exact strategy, sound like a broken record, but really, the beginning of these dungeons is very easy, not too much to worry about. What I like to do in these last rooms is stall out the fight a tiny bit so I can get some extra heals in, making sure that everybody is at max HP when the room ends. It really helps. Cannot reiterate that enough. The non-healing between rooms is critical. Alrighty guys, so we made it to the second boss of Ruined Village, and I'm quickly going to explain the mechanic I talked about earlier, which was the delaying enemies' attack. So, as you saw, that orb in the last fight, last boss fight, was stopping every time one of my monsters went in and tried to do an attack. What that actually does is it delays the enemy's orb from filling up, and it delays their next attack or ability from coming out. The reason this is helpful is because your leader's mana bar at the bottom right here doesn't actually pause when this occurs. So what this lets you do is, if you cycle your attacks and your abilities in a good manner, if you stagger them enough, you can actually delay the enemy's attack long enough for your mana bar to fill up to the point where you can put up a next shield, maybe do an extra attack, or even do a debuffing ability. So I'm going to show you real quick how we do that here. I'm actually going to spend all of my mana for this boss in the very beginning, just to show you how that pausing mechanic can be very, very helpful. Now, this boss is a little bit harder. He can get to the point where he can one-shot you. If you let him get to the 1 minute mark, he will actually kill your teammates. So you want to make sure you want to try to damage him out faster than he can kill you. I didn't switch out anybody in my team because I'm actually confident this team can kill him without losing anybody. But if you don't think you have the stuns and the healing necessary, just stack your team up with damage guys and you'll be able to do fine. So we're actually going to just use a ton of our mana here. And as you can see, oops, sorry, bad pause there. That was bad too. Oh, alright. You see his little orb there filling up. What we're going to do is we're going to use an ability. As soon as that resets, after he does his attack, we're going to use an ability, and you'll see it pause every time an ability comes. When it pauses, you can see at the bottom here, the mana bar will continue to go up. So let him do his ability, and we're going to attack, and you can see how his pausing is happening here a little bit. His ability is not going up, and it gave us enough time to get our mana back to put up another shield. Now, he's actually getting really strong here, so I don't know if that was a really good idea delaying it on my part, because we might actually lose some people. But let's see what we can do. Maybe our stunner can show us some love. This boss is actually a little bit weird, because I've noticed he actually heals your teammates sometimes, which is a little odd. I don't know why the boss on the enemy team would want to give your guys a little bit of a buff, but he actually does heal, so he actually killed the Ibzard, which is really bad for us, because I actually used that guy on the last boss to manage to kill him. So let's see if we can kill the last boss without having Ibzard on our team. That's going to be a little bit of a challenge.